Hey YouTube, it's SilverBack here again, and today we're playing Standard Core Set 2021. In Arena, it's a mode that's basically standard minus everything that's going to rotate here in about, a month or 5 weeks or so. So there is none of the sets that came out before Throne of Eldraine, so no War of the Spark, no Core Set 2020, everything before Throne of Eldraine that is going to rotate here soon is not included in this format. And I kind of like it because I was in prepare mode anyway and have been for, let's face it, probably the last 3 weeks or so. So this game mode is right up my alley. I can kind of see what things are shaping up into. Of course, Zendikar Rising is going to release, and that's going to change things up quite a bit, I believe. The mythics and rares from that set are no doubt going to be insane, and things will be different. But looking at it now, it seems like aggro is huge. There is ramp still, but it's a very aggro-oriented format. There is some adventures, but given that aggro is so prevalent in this new format as it stands right now, we are setting up for that, and it reflects in our deck setup. So we have Voracious Greatshark in the deck, something I have not ran for quite some time, but it proves to be a pretty good choice because mono red is a thing. Of course, we can counter any one of their creatures, but we can also counter their big artifact that they like to play. Mono green is a thing. Mono black is a thing. All are pretty aggro based, but they also include some combos and some various ways of pinging and black devotion type things. But everything is more creature based, is what I'm taking out of it, at least for now. Formats morph and change. Usually early on in the format, they're more aggro-oriented. Later, they become more control-oriented. At least that's how traditionally things work. So, Voracious Greatshark is in. Dirge Bat is in. Dirge Bat is a pretty good include. It does a lot of what we want to do. The Blacklance Paragon, which has been in and out recently, that's definitely in. We need the life gain. Another deck. In Best of One, cycling is huge in Standard 2021. If you like the cycling deck, they do pretty good in that format. We have good game against them, but it's hard to compete with two Flourishing Foxes, and then a well-timed Zenith Flare, let me tell you. So if you're a fan of cycling, pull that out and enter the format. You'll probably do pretty well for yourself. So the deck reflects the format. The deck list, as always, was on the screen in the first 30 seconds of the video, so be sure to look at it. But the one thing I've really been having fun with is Sublime Epiphany. And that is a card that, it does everything. It feels so good to play it. A well-timed Sublime Epiphany is just glorious. It's hard to describe. If you played it, you probably understand it. I would hesitate to run more than 2 of. I'm considering putting a second in there, but you don't want to hold it or in your starting hand. It's something you definitely want to draw and have for the right time. But it is a great inclusion to the deck, I think. There's probably going to be some more changes. I'm working on a Dimir control list. It's more of a traditional control. It still has flash elements, but it's going to be my biggest the most different deck I've played from the beginning of the channel. This channel's kind of been my adventures with one deck, kind of molding it, changing it, adapting to the formats. It's really been my story and the story of Dimir Flash as a deck, and I think that it's a pretty interesting one. You can go back to the early videos and see how the deck has evolved from a all-flash deck with no counter spells, nothing but flash, to more control, to what it is now. So be sure to check out my other videos. Let me know if you want to see the Dimir traditional control list. I plan on making a video of it. So if you're excited for that, let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you played the standard 2021 format on Arena. And let's get into a couple games here and see how we do. Alrighty, so let's get into the games. Again, this is standard 2021 on Arena, so there's nothing newer than Throne of Eldraine. So the sets in this standard set are Throne of Eldraine, Theros Beyond Death, Ikoria, and Core Set 2021. And that is all of them, I believe. So a lot smaller card pool. And we can see here our opponents on Adventures. So Adventures survive rotation pretty handily. And what we're going to try to do here is we're going to Thieves Guild Enforcer twice and try to get our opponent to swing in with Edgewall Innkeeper. So we're going to wait to do the Thieves Guild Enforcer thing. Lovestruck Beast as we expected. And our opponent decides to get in with the Edgewall Innkeeper. So we're going to mill him for 2 and then 4 for a total of 6. And then with this Fabled Passage there was 7 in there. And the Edgewall Innkeeper will make 8, so we'll turn on Thieves Guild Enforcer on turn 2. So that's pretty good. And then we luckily draw another land, so that's good as well. We have Slitherwisp mana. And we'll see what the opponent does. If he doubts us, yeah, we'll show him that we're willing to trade. Another thing to remember for this standard is, at least as of right now, there's no dual lands that are untapped. There's all the temples still, there's the life gain lands, and there's Fabled Passage and Evolving Wild, but there is no Watery Grave to play in this deck. Zendikar is usually a plane that has a lot of things to do with land and mana. It's famous for having some of the better dual lands in the game, fetch lands and stuff. So we'll probably get, I think they already announced there will be no fetch lands in this set coming up. But I imagine there's probably going to be either slow lands or fast lands. There's going to be some sort of land cycle. There's got to be. But I've noticed that because of that, a lot of people are on 1 and 2 color decks. You see far less 3 color because the mana is just too slow. In most cases, there are people doing it, and they're mostly the ramp decks. You'll see them on 3 color because they can fetch up land pretty quickly. And the ramp decks still move pretty quick too, with the Uros, the Cultivates, the things at their disposal. They can do a fair amount. So opponent placed a Faerie. He is not a typical adventure deck. He could be more of a ramp deck. I don't. It's almost like a mashup of 2 decks here. And then he Gilded Goose, so it probably is leaning more on the ramp side. And here you could say this is we're going to play down Blacklance and Sea-Dasher, and I'm going to spend the turn swinging in at Teferi with both of those. You could say that's a waste of the creatures, because our opponent obviously is going to trade his tokens, but we can't let the tokens get out of control here. So if he's willing to trade them, we're willing to get him off the board. And best case scenario, he doesn't block and we knock Teferi down, and then we can deal with him later. Worst case scenario, we clear his board of the tokens, we bounce the Teferi after he taps out, and get to play down the Nightbonder as well. Yeah, we're holding a handful of answers here, so that's a plus. And opponent will Uro. So you could argue that we could have used the Greatshark here and got a 5/4 body on board. But opponent's gonna make a token and chump anyway, and he could also use Teferi to phase it out. So I like using the rewind here, and then bouncing the Teferi, and then playing out Nightbonder and seeing if we can't draw a 1 or 2 mana flash spell that we could also play on the board. So I think this line of play makes more sense right now. Plus we still have an answer this way for the next Uro escape. An opponent will opt, so we'll go ahead and do our thing. And a second Slitherwisp is good, because we're going to be in a situation where combat damage isn't going to be very realistic. We're going to lean on the pings a little bit. And the land's pretty good here too. So again, opponent's deck is not bad at all. It's actually pretty good. Especially having Teferi, 2 Uros. You know, everything he's got here, he's playing good stuff. I guess you could call this maybe not Ventures, but more like Simic Ramp into good stuff. Simic good stuff, Simic Ramp. Although it's more of a slow ramp deck. I haven't been paying attention to his discards, which I probably should. He can escape Uro twice. Of course, he'd have to get rid of the other Uro to do so twice, but now we'll play out Greatshark. And in my head, I see 2 mana, so this should keep him off Uro for the turn. But I forget one important thing. And not that it changes much anyway, but and that's the Gilded Goose mana. I've completely forgot that Gilded Goose can produce mana. So here we can Sea-Dasher, which is good. We'll put that on Brazen Power since he tapped his only flying blocker. We'll play Slitherwisp out first because I'm trying to draw like a Drown in the Loch. Which want to answer the Uro escape, but it would do quite a bit. But instead we flood out and we get a Dirge Bat, which we could mutate next turn if we had to. We're going to try to clean up the tokens again. I fully expect, yeah, either that or just chump block and block. It might have been smarter for him to get the Nightbonder off, because if he did that, then it'd be harder for me to play things at a reduced rate, but he might be unfamiliar with the deck too. So 3 Slitherwisp could win the game easy. We get the third one down, and then if we can draw into Faerie Vandals, Blacklance Paragons, you know, spells that we can play out quickly, we can get him down in life really fast here. So it's looking good for us now, even though he can do all the things. And opponent doesn't seem to have much to do, so this here could be the end of the game for him. And he bounces one, and that's a-okay. Of course, this flood is pretty annoying. Sea-Dasher's a good draw. So we could Slitherwisp. Yeah, I'm putting some thought into it there. We probably should have Slitherwisped. I guess my thought was I wanted to blow up that Teferi. So I figured if I played out the third Slitherwisp, he would probably phase one out. And here I'm thinking in my head, okay, I can mutate on the Dirge Bat, blow up the Teferi, and I'll do that as he goes to draw the card, because why wouldn't he? And that's all I was worried about, but really the game's over. I haven't won here. An opponent's going to realize before I do. Because he's at 6, I ping for 2, and I have the mana to play both Nightbonders out. But let's move into the ranked matches. Alright, so again, this is Standard 2021 Ranked. So, I think it's awesome because I was preparing for this anyway. On the play here, we have the new Sublime Epiphany. It's one card you don't want to start with, but it's nice that we'll have it if the game lasts that long. So we'll start tap land, and we need all the lands we can get to play the cards in our hand. So opponent, Wildwood Tracker is a very popular mono green card right now. It really is. So, and those are two pretty good mills. They might be males, but they're good mills. Scavenging Ooze, we don't want them to have. Don't want them to have the tree either. So getting Slitherwisp down early is always a good idea. Even though we could mill more here, we got to start getting damage in and fast. Again, we don't want to panic too much here, but if he can mutate onto his Stonecoil Serpent, that's going to be bad news for us. And odd choice, I guess, but not really, because now they both have trample, so makes sense, I guess. This would maximize his damage for sure. We do go to block. 6 is better than 7, and we will Slitherwisp here. So things aren't looking terribly good right now. I really don't plan on blocking with Slitherwisp, but if we have to, we will. And that bounces pretty good. So the question is, what do we bounce here? It's tough to say, because we're not going to block any of it. But the Gem Razor does more damage, so this reduces our damage overall. And the opponent almost punted there. But we really need something and fast, and Blacklance is something, and it is fast. So we're gonna go ahead and Nightbonder. No attacks. And the plan is to Blacklance this turn. Get a questing beast off the field. I realize too I have all multicolored permanents here, so I can't block the Stonecoil if I wanted to. Of course, Blacklance could, but I don't think that'd be an ideal block. An opponent swings in with both. And we get the kill on the questing beast, so we'll actually go up by 1 life to 7. So looking good. Mono green is a fast, hard-hitting deck in this format. And he plays out the tracker, which we respond with the Brazen Bower, and we get a rewind, which could prove useful. And he's thinking about mutating, I do believe. That would help him get through the 5 damage. But the opponent, he's really thinking this one over, mulling it over. And he decides to play a Gem Razor out on its own. So 2 Black Lances here is really good for us. We could wipe out Stone Coil and Gem Razor. Garruk, Uprising, pretty good right there for him, but we got a counter. And then he has a Nessian Horn Beetle, which is another creature that can get out of control. And of course he swings all out. But we got the answers here. So we Blacklance. And if you look at our hand, we got the Sublime Epiphany mana too, so it's looking better all the time. So he's going to get through for, let's see, 2, 3. Okay, it took us down to 3, but we'll go up to 9. And this is pretty much game for our opponent. There isn't much he can do here. So we could mutate and blow up the beetle. We could Sublime Epiphany. And Sublime Epiphany is so much fun. But I'm still getting used to it. There's so many modes on this card. Some non-land permanent, and I was thinking to copy, but that's to return to hand. So I had to start over, which is probably annoying for the opponent. He's wondering what the delay is. But we'll return that. We'll make a copy of Slitherwisp, and I'll draw a card. And there you go. So that's game right there. Sublime Epiphany is the best include I've done in a while for sure. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, full disclosure, there is a loss between the mono green game and this game. I didn't bother to include it. It was a cycling deck. They got 2 Flourishing Foxes out early, made them quite large, quite fast. We managed to stay in it until, by chump blocking, until the flare came down and wrecked our day. So the cycling deck, you'll see a lot of that in the new standard, especially best of 1. Maybe not so prevalent in best of 3, but in best of 1, cycling is even better than it was before, and it wasn't half bad, really. I wouldn't call it tier 1, but it was definitely a good deck for best of 1, and it's only gotten better as our answers, or our ability to respond is reduced by the card pool. So here, another cycling deck. They don't have the Flourishing Foxes, so we're going to just go ahead and do our Sea-Dasher Vandal combo. This is a good combo against cycling, because until they get their flare, or unless they have a card that fights early, the Go for Blood or whatever that card is, they don't have many good answers. So opponent cycles and makes a token, and we're going to try to bait him into an attack here. And
And he does go for it, so we're going to trade the Thieves Guild Enforcer and get his Valiant Rescuer off the board. We'll see what he's holding up double white for here. And it's another Valiant Rescuer, so Voracious Greatshark isn't great here. We don't have the mana for it. And we're not getting any closer, so here we could obviously bounce the Rescuer just to make him pay 2 to play it back out, if that is in fact what he wants to do. He could do his flare thing now, but he does a Flourishing Fox. Early, if they get him out early, those things are tough to compete with. But mid-game like this, I'm not too worried about it. So he's definitely going to try to go wide rather than large. And another Enforcer isn't bad. It's probably already turned on. And we have our opponent on a 2-turn clock here, so Slitherwisp isn't bad. We're mana screwed. There is 24 lands in the deck, so a mana screw isn't very common, to be honest. So he has Flourishing Fox number 2. And again, he's going wide. He's going to make couple decent sized foxes here. If we didn't have a handful of chump blockers, this would be a lot better for him. But the thing that worries me is we haven't drawn the counter yet for the flare either, so we need him to stay off that flare, or we could be dead to it. And opponent swings in, or is thinking about it. He pulls back and goes back out and pulls one back, and this is a-okay by us. So a Thieves Guild Enforcer. Hopefully we can mill some relevant cards, and we do. And then we'll Cunning Nightbonder and try to mill a few more. And then again, not bad. So here we can block the fox, kill it, block a token, kill it. And then we can get in with Sea-Dasher. And without an answer here, we can easily chump the Flourishing Fox. Not having a counter, not having a land is killing us, though. Ideally, we draw Island and then rewind with the Sea-Dasher. And we draw a Blacklance, which is not spectacular. I mean, it's okay to get the block on the Flourishing Fox. Well, there we got the land, but we didn't find the counter, so I guess what we can do on our opponent's turn, if he does not have the flare, we win. Otherwise, we could counter Stranded Stinger or whatever he might try to play. We could Slitherwisp and then Faerie Vandal. But we need him to tap out on something other than a flare. I don't think we drew any counters this game outside of Greatshark. So if you're playing a lot of cycling, I would up the amount of counters. maybe add in some creature removal. Eliminates are really good against Flourishing Fox. Heartless Act, not so much. And he does go for blood. Looking at my hand, there's nothing we can do about it. So he may have bought himself another turn yet. Yep, there's just nothing we can do. So nice play by the opponent, but I think it's too little too late. So let's see, we get down the Slitherwisp, we ping him for 1 this turn. And then we could fly over for 2. No, 3. So we ping him for 1 here with Faerie Vandal. Goes to 5. Then we can fly over, draw a card when we mutate onto Faerie Vandal. We'll go to 4. That'll be a 3/3. And then, yeah, we can Blacklance and end the game, or we could Slitherwisp. Yeah, so that'll do it. So good showing against probably one of the better best of 1 decks here. With double white left up, there isn't much our opponent can do. And an island and a Blacklance. Alright, so we'll just get in for the damage, and that'll be ranked win number 2. We got our revenge on cycling. Opponent, yep, okay, he scooped. So let's move on to the grand finale. Alright, so we're 3-1 on the night so far. 2-1 in ranked. And we're on the play again. So we'll Temple of Deceit, and Thieves Guild Enforcer is a good draw. So hopefully he'll scry. But he plays out a Whisper Squad, which is interesting. Thinking about it, I don't know how effective the mill is. So we'll just kind of be annoying here while I think about what to do. If we draw a swamp, we're in better shape. And opponent mills 2 Lurises. That's rough for him. We don't get the swamp. We could counter a spell for that costs 2 or less. And we're still going to hold up the counter just in case. But he plays Ayara. And we can't counter. And we really can't play anything but 1 spell. We could have maybe Brazen Bowered, but... Okay, now we got the Black Source. So now we can do anything. We'll just hold back with Thieves Guild Enforcer. Opponent will try to get in with Mire Triton. And we're not afraid to trade here. We're not leaning on Thieves Guild Enforcer to win. So opponent plays Whisper Squad. And we will kill Ayara to prevent pings. So, and he'll play out another Ayara. So, great. Okay, opponent's at 24, so it's not looking great. If we could Slitherwisp here, that would be okay. Of course, if he attacks with Ayara, we wouldn't mind that either. But he's got 2 cards in hand, And we're not that threatened by anything on the board. So we'll find another Whisper Squad. Ping us. And find another Whisper Squad. And ping us. And then sack and draw. Okay. So we'll go ahead and Slitherwisp here. And work on a Nightbonder, draw a card, draw another swamp, so that don't help too much. And then we'll swing in for 3, get our opponent down to a respectable 23. And our opponent taps 2 and finds his last Whisper Squad and pings us. And is he gonna draw? Plays a land. Another Mire Triton. Pings us. And another unfortunate set of mills for him. Oh, that's rough. So this is a pretty interesting deck. Again, we're not too scared of anything opponent's doing. We do want to pump up our life a little bit here. Ooh, dual Blacklance. We play 4 of Blacklance in our deck, so eliminate. Okay, that's not devastating, seeing as how we have another. I mean, it does suck that we're not going to gain 6 life, but at least we get to gain some life. That could prove to be relevant here. And we'll block and block. And okay, opponent's gonna sack and keep us off the life. And oh no. Okay, well, that was a punt by our opponent. And we're mill. What's he got? Mire Triton. We could trade the Mire Triton, but we'll leave stuff back for now. And he'll Mire Triton. So we'll bounce Aara. And he'll sack and draw. Okay. And mill. So opponent's at double our life, but we're not really threatened by anything he's doing here. So opponent plays Aara. And we'll just go ahead and Brazen Bower, see what we draw. Another swamp isn't great. But we'll mill another decent card or 2. And we will block here. You could argue that, maybe we should have saved that, but I'm not too worried here. Especially with Sublime Epiphany. If he plays something huge like a Grey Merchant, oh, it feels so good. So we're gonna bounce Aara, counter Grey Merchant, make a copy of Slitherwisp, and draw a card. And we get a Greatshark. So that could counter Aara. And we need to get some of these lands out of our deck. So that, if we can start drawing some decent things, this could be the turning point of the game here. And we have the mana that we could... See, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we could maybe Greatshark and Brazen Bower if we draw nothing else. And a couple of really good draws there. Opponent plays Lyris. And he plays Archfiend's Vessel, which isn't that bad of a play. It's a really good play, actually. And this will put us up to 6 cards in hand. So we've effectively refilled, showing the power of Dimir Flash here. This is how we draw it up. And Blacklance. So we'll bounce the token. And I look at things. So we're showing 3, 6, 9, 15, 20 damage on board. He could block all but 9 of it. So we do 9, that leaves him at 7. We have 3, 6, 7 mana. So we could almost win here. Almost. An opponent blocks. Oh, big mistake by the opponent. We could just blow up Lyris. Let's see. 3, 6, 12. It's 12 in the air. Yeah, let's... Right or wrong, this could be a punt. Actually, Thieves Guild Enforcer. Don't matter, he scoops. So, there you have it. Doing work in Standard 2021. So, real quick, in conclusion, you can see that we are really sitting good for 2021 Standard. We do pretty well against the things that are around right now. We'll just have to see what Zendikar Rising brings. Again, the deck list is on the screen if you're interested. Comment, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.